Hey, what's up? Welcome to my home gym. Today we are going to 3D print a stand for these Eisenlink adjustable dumbbells. Dumbbells are one of the most important pieces of a gym. At a commercial gym, there's usually a wall for dumbbells alone. It goes from 5 pounds to 100 or 120 pounds, and it takes up a tremendous amount of space. Now in a home gym, you just don't have that kind of space, so that's where adjustable dumbbells come in. There's 3 types of adjustable dumbbells that are kind of easily available on the market. The first is a block style dumbbell. And what you'll do is you'll put your hand inside of a big block and the weights are on the outside of that block. And to adjust the weights, you pull a pin out and adjust it up or down based on the weight that you want. Now these are really nice because they're durable and they have a broad weight range and they're well organized. But the problem is I just don't like putting my hand inside of a brick when I lift. The second type of adjustable dumbbell is sort of a wrist adjusting dumbbell, like a grip adjuster. And basically you can grab the handle and turn to select the weight that you want, and you can go from 5 pounds to 50 pounds with just the click of a wrist, which is really nice. The problems with these are in durability. When I lift weights or when anybody lifts a lot of weight, you have to sort of drop those dumbbells on the ground. And a lot of those grip adjusting dumbbells just aren't durable. And you could really damage and break your expensive weights. Now the cool thing about both of those is they're well organized. They lend themselves, because of the way they're designed, they lend themselves to a really nice organization. And you can always tell exactly how much weight you've got on it. But there's some drawbacks, obviously. Now the third type of adjustable dumbbell solves some of those problems, but unsolves some of those problems as well. This is the third style. It's basically a plate-loaded dumbbell, and it comes in a couple of pieces. The first piece is this handle. You can see there's a handle here, and it weighs 10 pounds. These plates are connected to it. And then there's these screws, and each one of these screws weighs 2.5 pounds. You loosen the screws, and you put a weight on the left, another plate over here on the right, tighten them down, and now you have a 25-pound weight. The thing that's really nice about this is these are heavy duty, they're tough, and I can drop these on the floor, no problem. I don't have to worry about damaging anything. The thing that I don't like about this weight set is these plate style weights don't lend themselves very well to good organization. And your floor will end up with just weights and plates everywhere and kind of sitting around. So that's one problem we're gonna solve today, is organization. The second challenge is when you put a lot of weight on here, you have to do some mental math to know how much weight am I lifting, right? So you have to kind of count how many plates you have and then do that math to know the weight. It's not printed on the weight. So that's the other problem that we're gonna solve today with this little organizational table. Okay, so here's the game plan. We're gonna start out with the basic table. This is a set of legs that I bought off of Amazon. It's about 18 inches or 20 inches tall. And on top of these table legs, I'm gonna use a piece of 3/4 inch plywood. Amazon says that these table legs should hold 600 pounds. So should be more than enough for what we're trying to do. That's the basic game plan. Let me show you what I'm gonna put on top of this table. Okay, here's my master plan for the tabletop. The dumbbells will sit in the middle of the table vertically like this. And then off to the sides, I'm gonna have columns of plates. And the plates are gonna sit inside of a 3D printed organizational system so that you can keep everything square and straight and organized. Each column is gonna be kind of like this. It's gonna have a bunch of slots, and the weight plates will sit vertically. And you can see this will stack up from top to bottom on the right and the left. Now, the last thing I want to mention are these numbers over here. One of the problems with this dumbbell set is, like I mentioned before, is you don't know how much weight you're putting on the dumbbell. So what I'm going to do to solve that one is each one of these plates will have a number next to it. So if you've loaded up this 25-pound weight and this 25-pound weight onto this dumbbell now weighs 25 pounds. If you add the 35-pound weights, then now your dumbbell weighs 35. So as you get heavier and heavier, these slots over here will be empty, and you'll know exactly how much weight you've got loaded on. Anyways, let me show you what's going on. We got the printer printing, doing what it does best. It is currently printing one of 16 pieces that's gonna go on this table. Up here, we've got 2 different types of TPU that's meant for the AMS. And as you can see, I've already emptied one of these spools, but I'm going to show you the advantage of using TPU for AMS. I printed 3 little demo pieces to show you the differences between materials that I'm trying to illustrate here. So this is called PLA. It's printed in 2 different colors. This is a metal PLA. It's actually a really cool, sort of a shiny look. And of course, just black matte PLA. But as you can see, PLA is able to, it's rigid, it doesn't bend much. And if I work it hard enough here, it'll break, right? This filament will break. PLA is really nice because it's easy to print with, and you can see this print came out super nice, right? This is a better every single time is kind of a little saying that my son's football coach tells him all the time. So I printed this for this demo. But PLA is really nice. It's rigid. It really can't be bent. The problem is it can't take an impact. So that's one of the disadvantages of using PLA for an application like we're doing here. TPU is another type of material, and it's famous for being super flexible. As you can tell, this is easily folded and bent, and it'll go back to its original shape. And it's actually pretty strong. You can put a lot of weight in it, and it does a good job going back to its original shape. And as you can see, the filament is super flexible. I could bend and play with this all day. It also compresses, when it's in this direction, and it stretches in this direction. The problem with this material is you can't print with TPU in multiple colors at the same time. This material would work really well for our application, but I wouldn't be able to put any labels or letters or numbers on. This material here is a little bit of a blend between TPU and PLA. It's called TPU for AMS. It's definitely not as flexible as original TPU, but it is flexible, and it will go back to its original shape. It's a little bit of a hybrid between these 2 materials. I have no idea whether it's made for high temperature or anything like that, but this is the material that we're going to use for our table. Okay, we've got a solid plan. I'm going to load this material into the AMS and get started printing. Okay, this is a side video for anybody who's interested in how to change out materials in an AMS. It's super easy. Basically, I'm going to push a little lever here and pull out the TPU, or actually this is PETG, this green material. And you pull it out just like that. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move this black material over to the first slot because I use that black material more often. And then I'm going to put my new TPU over here in these further down slots. You can see the AMS is basically reading the RFID sensor on that black filament, and it can tell what kind of material it is from that RFID and also what color it is. So that when you go to the computer, it kind of says, hey, slot 1 is black, slot 2 is blue, and slot 4 is about to be TPU for AMS. So I'm going to put it in here, load it in, let the AMS do its thing. While it's doing that, I'll get the black ready. This is also TPU for AMS. Slide it into this tiny little hole and let the AMS do its thing. Okay, first print is all done. Looks pretty good. It is very firm. If I wasn't paying attention, I wouldn't imagine that's a TPU. It is pretty solid. These holes are mounting holes, so I can screw it to the table. See how these plates fit in here. That is going to be nice. Took about 6 hours. One of the things I was a little bit concerned about was getting your fingers in there, but I think it'll work, especially once you kind of break it in a little bit more. There's print 1 of 16. A little bit of a closer look. You can see over here on the right side, we've got those weight stacks or those weight columns over here. And the same thing on the other side. Here in the middle is where the dumbbells will sit, and there's a little bit of a spot where you can reach underneath that handle and grip the dumbbell. Now, all looks really good, no major complaints, but I do have 2 little errors that I have to call out and fix. You'll notice here that in the design, I included holes on every single one of these prints, except when I did my slicing, I made a mistake and I grabbed an old file that didn't have the holes for this one. For this, I'm gonna drill some holes and just go with it because I don't have enough additional material. Not ideal, but you know, lesson learned. Now the second mistake is this. The other day, I was cutting my plywood and I just mismeasured. I measured twice and still screwed up. So I cut this piece of plywood wrong. So I had to go back to the store and grab another piece of plywood. So I'm about to cut this plywood to the correct size. And then, now that the edge banding is done, it's time to install each of our table toppers onto the board. Edge banding looks really good. And all I'm gonna do to attach them is I'm gonna take a 1-inch screw, put it in each of these holes, line it up really nicely, and screw it down. Okay, that worked out pretty well. There's the good holes, there's the bad holes. You can see it's a little bit stretched out, but just a little bit. You can see it also sort of rolled in when I screwed that screw in there. It just sort of rolled in on itself, that TPU. But man, when you step back, you look at it from here, you'll never know. We're gonna use edge banding around the edge of this plywood that we just cut. Edge banding covers up these layer lines and the glue lines on plywood, and it's real simple. On one side, it's this, it's black melamine is what it's called. It looks really nice. On the other side, it's glue that's activated by heat. So we'll take an iron, a hot iron, and just run it over the top of that, and it'll stick on there. A couple times I screwed up and I didn't line it up very well on the top and the bottom. And so I had to kind of heat it up again and peel it off, and then I resanded the edge and put on another piece. Now once you get it on, there's a little bit of an overhang that hangs off one side or the other of your plywood, and that's intentional so that you can get full coverage over this 3/4 inch plywood. And then what you do is you take this little tool, and this tool's got, maybe hard to see in there, but it's got some little razor blades. That silver piece there is a razor blade, and it basically, you squeeze it together and drag it on the edge of the edge banding, and it kind of smooths out each corner here so that it's nice and clean looking. And the result of all that is something like this. This is a good example of edge banding. This is a shelf that has a bunch of shoes on it. Inside of here is a bunch of particle board. That's edge banding covering it. Sometimes you can buy edge banding that has kind of a wood looking finish, and it's really nice, or you can just have this black melamine finish. On ours, you can see I just finished putting the top on this, but on ours, that melamine finish looks really nice. It kind of blends in with the black when you step away. So it didn't go on perfect, but it never does the first time unless you do this every day. All right, last step I'm gonna do is put those table legs on there. This part should be pretty straightforward. I've drawn 2 lines on the wood on the bottom side of this table, one right in the center, and it's going to line the center line of these legs, and then another line that goes this way where I'm going to use to line up these holes. There it is. There's the final product in all its glory. Actually, really proud of how that looks. Let me show you a close-up of what it looks like with it loaded up with weights. You can see our weight stacks came out just as we had planned. We've got a nice little spot in here to grip the weight. That's almost more of a material savings as well, but let me show you how it works. So if you look here, you can tell those numbers. Right now we've got, because there's no weights added to the handle, you've got 15 pounds. If I wanted to add, let's say I added 5 pounds. Okay, so to add 5 pounds, the 2.5 pound weights are up at the bottom and the top, and then these are the 5 pounders. So we'll take 2.5 pounds off of here, add it right there, tighten it, same thing here. Tighten that, and now you have 20 pounds. You can no longer see that 15-pound mark here. Now you've got 20 pounds. Now over here on this side, you've got 3 plates added to the bottom and the top, and you can see we're up at 45 pounds. So those little markers there really help us out. That should be awesome. The other cool thing about this is I've built it so that I can expand it up to my 105 or 110 pound setup. So these are all sort of built for us to grow and actually add more weight to this in the future. One little thing that I'll note that I'm not totally pleased with is I made the clearance a little bit too tight when setting the weight in there, and it doesn't pop in. It's just a little bit tighter than I'd like it to be. 2 things we could do on it. One is we could just wait. I think by over time, TPU is going to kind of wear in. I think those little wiggles are going to get a little bit bigger over time. And my hope also is that this loosens up a little bit. The other option is I could come in here with some sort of sandpaper and kind of wear it down a little bit so that it's just a little bit just a hair bigger from here to here. But I'm just gonna wait on it and see how it breaks in over the next couple weeks. That's the end of this video. I want to pause for a moment and thank Eli. Eli's the editor of these videos, and he took over a couple months ago. He's doing a really great job. There's days where I send over garbage to him and he turns it back and makes it look really good on the camera. So huge thanks to Eli. He's just 13 years old. He wants to become an editor someday. Really excited to see what's in your future. I hope this video inspires you to get strong, get creative with your 3D printing, and get a little bit better every single time. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.